Welcome back for another video. I'm Eharbad, a free-to-play endgame player in Raid Shadow Legends. Today we have a new fusion that has begun, Morrigaine. I did do a champion rating video a couple of days ago on this champion. I'd urge you, if you want to know my thoughts about that champion, to have a look at the video. Obviously there have been a lot of talk recently about this new Priest Ornn, the HP epic from the new faction Sylvan Watchers. I'm not going to dwell on it too much. The one thing I will say is I personally think it's better they nerfed the epic before the fusion began, rather than doing so afterwards, like they did with Morrigraine. How they didn't see that the champion was going to be broken good, given it's essentially a carbon copy of Morrigraine in terms of kind of the overall mechanics. Like, I don't get it. I don't know if they test the game at all before they put things out. Given recent developments of things like Fortis and this epic, I would suggest they probably don't. But anyway, that is where we are. What I want to focus on in this video is more the fusion plan itself and how I'm going to be approaching that. Beforehand, however, we do have one bit of positive news. There is a new promo code in the game called Look Behind You, which will give us some much appreciated resources to help us do the fusion itself. As a quick refresher, Morrigraine, a undead horde magic support legendary. We have a decent chance to decrease speed on the A1, should be 100% if we wanted this champion to be unique and interesting. The A2 has an AoE True Fear, which in itself is decent, but True Fear has its own issues in terms of inconsistency on crowd control. Personally, I would like to see a different debuff rather than decrease accuracy on bosses. There are very few bosses where this is impactful, and as I mentioned in the other video, Morrigraine, the wrong affinity for Bommel, being the main one that we would want such a debuff. And then the A3 is actually very strong. I like this. Obviously an extra turn would make it even stronger, but potentially that would be overpowered. And then I'm not as much of a hater of this passive as some people. I think it will have niche use. I think given that the debuff can't be removed, is effectively a protected debuff. I don't think we have many of those at the moment, so that's quite interesting. I think if it was AoE, this would be far too strong. I do think maybe it could be coded in a slightly different way. Could be maybe 2 enemies or something. I'm not sure, but I think it will be interesting in the Siphi waves and the Sky Touched Shaman waves in Doom Tower. So anyone kind of having just sort of finished Faction Wars or towards the end of Faction Wars trying to push hard Doom Tower, so kind of solid late mid-game, early end-game kind of account, will benefit from a champion of this nature. And then a Speed All Battles, bit of a weak aura in itself, a little bit low, but it is what it is. Like I said, I think if this champion was in the new faction, everyone would be very happy with the champion overall. But given that it's in a faction that has a lot of legendaries, and she's not filling any kind of unique role or place in the game, it's a bit disappointing. Right then, if we take a look at the schedule here, I think there's a couple of things we really want to point out. Firstly, I'm going to start in champion training until the Dungeon Diver drops, and then I'm going to go very hard on Fire Knight on this Saturday here. So I've got to do a lot of work in this Fire Knight here on the Saturday, probably best part of 2,000 energy. And you're going to say to me, well, where are you going to get all that energy? Well, some of it's going to come from the artifact event. We will get some energy from that event. I believe there's one energy node in the champion training itself, so I'll be saving that as well. There's also energy in champion chase, and there should be energy in arena. So I could see a bunch of energy that we can get from focusing on the other events first, which I'll then be able to put into Fire Knight once the Dungeon Diver drops. Now, these Dungeon Divers, I think, are massive traps. The fact that they're fairly long, each of them, and typically recently we've been seeing Dungeon Divers as being rather brutal. I expect that will be the case here, which is why I'm really focusing on doing these dungeons overlapping with the Dungeon Divers. So I really want to get most of my campaign work done on the champion training event before Dungeon Divers drops. And then I'll be doing Fire Knight and Spider quite hard during Dungeon Divers. If we're struggling a little bit on the champion training, I might well do Spider as a solo farm with my Crypt King Graal, but we'll have to see kind of how much progress we can make in champion training by the time Spider starts. I think there's another interesting opportunity here, and that's that I think we'll be able to rank up the first 4 rares and fuse 1 epic during the champion chase itself. So I will look to fuse the first epic either on the Saturday or Sunday. Now, those epics are going to come from 1 from the Fire Knight. Sorry, the rares, 1 from the Fire Knight, 1 from the Artifact event, 1 from the champion training, only the first one, and then 1 from Arena. We can just draw the 4 in there. So I will be looking at using those 4 to fuse an epic and get the champion chase points. Now, maybe we will actually get the 4th from champion chase itself. I don't yet know exactly what the points distribution is going to be, but I'm probably going to go for, say, the first legendary tome, which I expect to be about 3,000 points. There's probably going to be a rare fractionally below that, so it could be that fusing the epic will be the top up to get the legendary book. I don't know. It could be 3,000, it could be 3,500. We'll just have to kind of see how it comes out, but I know we'll be able to get 4 rares through Fire Knight, Artifact Enhancement Event 1, first of the 2 champion training rares, and the Arena rare. So that will definitely be achievable by Saturday, given that we'll have gone hard during a Fire Night on the Saturday, and then I will be able to rank them up and get the fusion of the epic done probably on the Sunday. That is a good, efficient use of your time and resources over the weekend. Now you could say, oh, but we know we might even be able to get the second epic before the champion chase is finished, but because of this Dungeon Divers event, I think that's going to be out of scope. The points requirement in Dungeon Divers 1 is going to be far too high to achieve before the cutoff on the champion chase tournament on the Monday. It will take us the entirety of this event to get done. Now, when Dragon drops later in the tournament, I would try and recommend to do this with a solo farm in Dragon as well. We have overlapping champion training and Dragon, and there's not really any opportunity to do this champion training outside of the dungeons. We've got probably 1 day of dedicated champion training, and the prior day on the Wednesday, we kind of have a bit of a gap on energy, so you probably could build up some food here and look to use it in the champion training. So then on the Friday and Saturday, with particular focus again being played on the Saturday once Dungeon Divers 2 drops, we'll want to farm quite aggressively in dungeons once the Dungeon Divers has began, as we get more points there than we do per energy than in campaign. So there's a lot to take on there. In terms of like the energy crunch, it's really at the front of this tournament, of this fusion rather. I think the first 6 days are going to be pretty intense, and it's straight after a personal reward CVC, which obviously depleted everyone's energy reserves. So, it's going to be a fairly robust fusion. I do think the 10x here is quite likely to be oriented around the new faction. And I do think probably we're going to see some guaranteed champions over the next couple of months that will be focused more on the new faction. I mean, if we look back at how how many Shadowkin guarantees they did after they released the Shadowkin faction. There were many of them, so I think it's fair to expect that we'll have a similar behaviour this time round. Like I said, today I'm going to focus on champion training. I would recommend watching my champion training guide from the Helicath Fusion. That is the most up-to-date sort of method in terms of how I approach champion training. I'll also try and insert into this video the graphic in terms of how many runs and brews I use to efficiently farm the food. I will obviously be going for the legendary skill tome. I generally always do when we have one of these champion training situations. I think it's a good way of getting a legendary skill tome. And I'm actually pretty pleased to see a tier 2 soulstone in this event. I think this is actually a good event. For the first time in a long while, we have a nice set of rewards in an event where they're not being too stingy. They're not giving us only tier 1 soulstones. We've actually at least got a tier 2 soulstone. We have not seen that very often at all. So this is better. On the flip side, however, this Fire Night tournament is trash. I really don't want to see 4-star chickens as a top reward. I just don't think anyone really values them very much. Reasonably disappointed to only see 750 tier 1 coins. Now, if this was 200 tier 2, or at least 1 tier 1 soulstone, that would be more acceptable. But to only get 3/4 of a soulstone is, I think, pretty poor. As I mentioned at the time, I thought this kind of reward set for Ice Golem was much more kind of appealing, and I think they could have slotted in the rare. Say, in this slot here, knock down the coins down to here and the gems down to here, and then that would be fine. I'd be happy with that. Like I've said in other videos, I think they've got too many resources to fit in too few slots, and that's just kind of the way it goes these days. Also, have to say, what has happened to our artifact enhancement event? They seem to have taken away our energy node here and given us some greater spirit potions. Now, I don't know about you, but I would much rather have 100 energy than 5 greater spirit potions. So what can you say, really? It seems Plarium have many binary choices to make, and they consistently are making the wrong call. And it's just causing frustration in the community for no upside. I honestly cannot believe that we do not have a way of getting a copy of the epic. I think that is absolutely shocking. It's got to be the first fusion, traditional fusion we've ever done that doesn't have a copy of the epic available. This one, we've got 4 copies of the same epic to complete the fusion, and still no way of getting a spare copy. Typically you would see that on the summon rush that's later in the tournament, and for some reason they're just not giving it this time. And a new faction, you kind of want to pick up the epic in the new faction, particularly an epic that seems to be very strong with a nice overall kit that would really help in faction wars. I think it would be very strong in terms of being a boss killer, help you clear waves, just a solid overall champion, and great for progression accounts. To me, it just seems so short-sighted. I think in the end, quite a few kind of mid-game accounts will probably just take the epic and forego the legendary. But I don't think you have to create a situation where your player base has to choose when you haven't previously done so. I don't actually understand the rationale. Anyway, it is what it is. I hope this video has helped. Please let me know, would you like me to try and do daily or maybe every other day videos throughout the fusion on little nuances on how I'm managing the fusion, and those little kind of tips and tricks in terms of when I'm putting my resources into which event or tournament on that day and which resources I'm saving back for when particularly the Dungeon Divers starts. So this energy we just picked up in the promo code, I'm going to be saving that for when the Dungeon Diver drops. And if we can, I'm going to try and save the old promo code arena tokens when arena drops, but we'll have to see. So yeah, if you do want me to do that, then I'll try and get some kind of update videos throughout the fusion. And lastly, congratulations to OBV Judgment. They beat us in the PRCVC. So I know one of their clan members was watching my video the other day and commented on it. And yeah, they did the work and definitely deserved the victory. Anyway, right, I think that now is definitely everything. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.